Most people try to change their lives during the day by reading, meditating, or reacting to problems. But what if the real transformation happens while you sleep? What if the thoughts you carry into bed are quietly shaping your future, for better or worse? Right before sleep, your mind is wide open. Not to noise, but to suggestion. And this is where Stoicism becomes a quiet force. It's not just a daytime discipline, it's a nightly practice. Marcus Aurelius ended each day by reflecting, not to judge himself, but to let go. Seneca taught that no night should come without learning from your actions and releasing what no longer serves you. They knew that inner peace is planted in silence. This audio isn't background noise. It's a nightly ritual, a space to detox your mind, detach from the chaos, and reprogram your subconscious with timeless Stoic principles. So when you wake, you don't just feel rested, you feel ready. If that speaks to you, tap like, hit subscribe, and let's begin your transformation tonight.
Number 1.
Mental detox before sleep. Before your head touches the pillow, your mind is already in motion, not toward rest, but toward rumination. You think about what you said, what you didn't say, what they might be thinking about you. You replay scenes from the day, some painful, some embarrassing, some unresolved. Most people don't drift into sleep. They sink into it with a burdened heart and a noisy mind. But the Stoics taught something powerful and often forgotten. Peace is not found in sleep itself. Peace is found in the preparation for sleep. If you want to wake up with clarity, you must first go to bed with intention. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." When you lie awake at night, tossing and turning, it's not because of what happened today, it's because of how your mind has interpreted what happened. You're not wrestling with reality, you're wrestling with your reactions. That's why the first Stoic practice for a better life through sleep is this: mental detox. To detox your mind is to cleanse the residue of the day. Before sleep, sit in silence. You don't need incense, you don't need music, you need honesty. Ask yourself, what am I still holding on to? Are you still carrying someone's comment, a missed opportunity, a conversation that didn't go your way? Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." If that's true, and it is, then wouldn't it be wise to choose those colors before bed? Once you've named the mental clutter, observe it, don't suppress it, don't fix it, just watch it. The Stoics practice something called apatheia, not indifference but emotional clarity. It's the ability to see thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them. You are not your anger, you are not your regret, you are the observer, Seneca said. He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. And many of us suffer nightly, not because we're in pain, but because we haven't yet learned how to let go. Letting go does not mean forgetting, it means not clinging. Imagine your thoughts as leaves in a stream. Watch them pass. Don't reach in, don't follow, just witness. This quiet detachment isn't weakness, it's control. It's power without noise. And once your mind softens, your body follows. Your breath deepens, your muscles loosen. You're no longer preparing for battle, you're preparing for peace. Take the example of Ryan Holiday, modern Stoic and author of The Daily Stoic. Each night he journals, not to be productive, but to clear his mind, to review the day with compassion, to let go of mistakes, and to focus on what matters. It's not just reflection, it's a ritual of release. And in doing this, he prepares not just for rest, but for a more intentional tomorrow. Now consider the science neurologically. The final thoughts you entertain before sleep are absorbed most easily by the subconscious. If you go to bed filled with tension and unresolved emotion, your brain reinforces those emotional circuits. But if you go to bed having consciously emptied your mental load, you give your mind space to heal, to rewire, to grow, and that's how mental detox becomes transformation. The Stoics didn't just speak of daily discipline, they lived it. Cleanliness of mind was as important as cleanliness of hands. And this is not ancient advice. It's eternal. It's for the mother who can't stop worrying about her child, for the entrepreneur who lies awake fearing failure, for the person whose heart was bruised today and still feels the sting. Mental detox is not for the elite, it's for the exhausted. So tonight ask yourself, am I carrying today into tomorrow? If the answer is yes, pause, breathe, let go, even if just a little, because that space between reaction and release is where peace begins. Don't let the day follow you into your dreams. Don't let rest become resistance. Cleanse your mind before you close your eyes. Not to forget the day, but to free yourself from being trapped inside it. That is how you detox the mind. That is how you sleep like a Stoic. And that is how you rise with a clear soul and a calm heart, ready not just to face life, but to lead it.
Number 2.
Nightly self-reflection. At the end of each day, there's a quiet moment that most people skip. The moment where you look back, not with judgment, but with clarity. In modern life, we rush to escape the day, distracting ourselves with screens, noise, or exhaustion. But the Stoics believed that how you end your day is how you shape your character. To them, the night wasn't just a time to rest. It was a time to refine. And that refinement came through a simple but powerful practice, nightly self-reflection. Seneca once wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, aware of this habit that's now mine, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said." This wasn't about perfection. It was about progress. The Stoics knew that the most dangerous mistake is the one we don't notice, because we'll make it again. So they trained themselves to look inward, not to punish, but to learn. Self-reflection is not about shame, it's about sharpening. You ask questions like, where was I reactive today? Where did I live according to my values? And where did I drift? Did I let anger lead me? Did I speak with integrity? Did I use my time wisely? Or did I trade it for things that left me empty? These are not questions for guilt. These are questions for growth. And when asked nightly, they act like a compass. Even if you drifted today, you now have the chance to correct your course tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote meditations not to impress others, but to hold himself accountable. Each night, he used writing as a tool, not for storytelling, but for soul-searching. He asked himself hard questions, not to shame himself, but to stay awake to his purpose. This practice is what made him resilient in times of loss, betrayal, and pressure. Because he didn't wait for the world to evaluate him, he evaluated himself. When you reflect at night, your mind is more open, less defensive, more honest. The ego is tired, and that's a good thing. In that stillness, you can be real with yourself. No mask, no pretense, just truth. And that truth builds a stronger foundation for tomorrow. Because while most people repeat their days by default, the Stoic rewrites the next day with intention. There's a modern voice that echoes this tradition. Tim Ferriss, the best-selling author and entrepreneur, ends each night by journaling 3 questions. What went well? What could have gone better? What did I learn? He credits this habit with helping him reduce anxiety and stay aligned with what matters. Not because every answer is perfect, but because the act of asking keeps him aware. That's the key, awareness. The goal isn't to become flawless. The goal is to become conscious. When you reflect nightly, you don't just process the past. You prepare for the future. You recognize patterns. You notice what's draining you. You see where you're slipping. And because of that, you no longer live on autopilot. You live awake. But here's the hard truth. Reflection requires honesty. You must be willing to admit where you fell short, but you must also be kind enough not to turn that truth into self-hate. Stoicism is not about perfection, it's about self-governance. You are the captain of your soul, and every night is a chance to steer back toward virtue. So tonight, take 5 minutes. Sit in silence. Ask yourself with humility and courage, did I live well today? Did I honor what I know to be right? And where did I betray myself, even in small ways? Not to beat yourself up, but to build yourself up, as Epictetus taught. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Learn to look within. Self-reflection is not glamorous, it won't trend, but it's the quiet discipline that separates the reactive from the resilient, the scattered from the stable. And if you do it with consistency, you'll find that you don't need more hours in the day, you just need more presence within them. That is the power of nightly self-reflection. Not for perfection, but for progress, not for shame, but for strength, and not for performance, but for peace.
Number 3.
Emotional detachment, apatheia. One of the greatest misunderstandings about Stoicism is the belief that it teaches you to feel nothing, that it demands coldness, detachment, or even a robotic kind of indifference. But that's not Stoicism. That's distortion. True Stoicism doesn't ask you to stop feeling. It teaches you how not to be ruled by your feelings. It doesn't demand you cut out your emotions. It shows you how to hold them without letting them hold you. The word the Stoics used was apatheia, not apathy, but disciplined calm, a deep internal clarity that remains rooted no matter what the world throws at you. Let's start here. Emotions are natural. You are not weak for feeling sadness, fear, jealousy, or anger. You are human. Marcus Aurelius felt these things too. So did Epictetus. What they practiced was not emotional suppression, but emotional separation. They created space between what they felt and how they chose to respond. That space is everything. That's the difference between being reactive and being wise. It's in that space where freedom lives. Nowhere is this more important than before sleep, because nighttime strips away distraction. It leaves you alone with your mind. The emotions you didn't deal with during the day. They return, a comment that stung, a failure that shook you, a fear that quietly followed you home. If you don't learn how to sit with these feelings and detach from them, they hardwire themselves into your subconscious. And by morning, they're not just feelings. They've become beliefs. Beliefs like, I'm not good enough. I can't trust people. I'll never change. This is how emotion, left unchecked, becomes identity. This is why practicing apatheia at night is so essential. You allow yourself to feel, but not fuse. You say, this anger is present, but it is not me. This pain is real, but it doesn't define me. This isn't denial, it's discipline, Epictetus said. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And that embodiment begins with emotional sovereignty, not clinging, not collapsing, but calmly observing the storm within you, without letting it take the wheel. Consider the example of Nelson Mandela. Though not a Stoic by name, he lived out Stoic values. After decades in prison, he emerged not full of hatred, but with clarity. He famously said, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. That is apatheia, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be owned by it, to feel deeply, but to choose wisely. Even in modern times, we see this practiced by leaders of emotional strength. Think of Viktor Frankl, who found meaning in suffering by learning that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is the power to choose. This is the same space the Stoics train for every day. Now, how do you apply this in your own life? Before bed, sit down in silence. Rewind the emotional highlights of your day. Name them. Look at them. Don't justify them. Don't dramatize them. Just notice. Then ask, did I act from this emotion, or did I act from my principles? If you reacted from fear, admit it. If you stayed aligned with your values, honor that. This is not a performance, it's a practice. And it's in this practice that your nervous system learns a new language, the language of peace. This nightly ritual trains your subconscious to expect calm. Over time, emotional storms that used to hijack your mind now pass without damage. Not because you don't feel, but because you've learned not to drown. Ryan Holiday often says, Stoicism is not about feeling less, but fearing less. That's what Apatheia gives you. The courage to feel without the fear of being consumed. You no longer avoid difficult emotions. You walk through them with awareness, with restraint, with quiet strength. And so tonight, as you prepare to sleep, pause. Ask yourself, what emotion am I still clinging to that no longer serves me? Is it shame? Is it envy? Is it fear of being misunderstood? Let it rise, let it breathe, then let it go. This is not weakness, it is mastery. The ability to hold your inner world with steady hands, the decision to be calm in the face of chaos. Not because you're numb, but because you are awake. That is emotional detachment, the Stoic way. That is apatheia, and that is how you go to sleep with clarity and rise with control.
Number 4.
Subconscious reprogramming. There's a truth most people overlook. The mind does not shut off when you go to sleep. It keeps listening, it keeps processing, it keeps recording. And if you're not intentional about what your subconscious receives before sleep, it will replay whatever noise, conflict, or anxiety it absorbed during the day. That's not rest. That's internal recycling. But the Stoics understood something far more powerful. They knew that what you feed your mind, especially when it's quiet, is what shapes your identity. Your subconscious is not your enemy, it's your ally. But like any ally, it needs direction, it needs leadership. It doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in patterns. As Epictetus taught, every habit and faculty is preserved and increased by its corresponding actions. If you want calm to become your baseline, you must rehearse calm. If you want strength to be instinctive, you must train your inner voice to speak strength, not occasionally, but consistently. Right before sleep, your mind enters what modern neuroscience calls the hypnagogic state, a deeply suggestible, liminal phase between waking and sleep. The Stoics didn't name it, but they lived inside it. Marcus Aurelius wrote his thoughts before bed, reviewing the day, realigning his mind with reason. He wasn't journaling for memory. He was programming his character. He understood that the final voice you hear before sleep should not be the world's. It should be your own, and it should be guided by truth. This is the secret of Stoic mental conditioning. It's not about hype, it's about alignment. You're not hypnotizing yourself with empty optimism. You're anchoring yourself in principles that endure. You're saying, this too is outside my control, and I will let it pass, you're whispering. I can face discomfort because discomfort cannot destroy who I truly am. These aren't mantras. They're reminders. Reminders of what is eternal in you. Think of James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. He teaches that every action is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. That includes thought. That includes your nighttime rituals. If you go to sleep repeating chaos, you cast a vote for confusion. If you go to sleep speaking stillness, you vote for peace. Reprogramming begins with a single vote, cast again and again. So what can this look like? Start simple, a short mental rehearsal. I release today, I am not my mistakes. I choose peace. I am not owed anything by the world. I owe myself integrity. Or write 3 lines. what you learned, what you forgive, and what you will practice tomorrow. These become your subconscious seeds, and over time, the harvest is calm, not forced but familiar. There is science behind this. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy shows that affirmations and intentional thoughts before sleep have lasting neural effects. That means your nighttime reflections aren't wasted. They're wiring your brain. When you rehearse virtue, your brain builds that virtue not in theory, but in habit. And as the Stoics knew well, habit shapes destiny. But it's not just about what you add, it's about what you subtract. You must guard the final inputs of your day. Don't fall asleep scrolling. Don't let outrage be the last thing you consume. Turn down the noise. Lower the temperature of your inner world. The Stoic protects not only his time, but his attention, because he knows the mind doesn't forget what you feed it. So tonight, make a decision. Don't let your subconscious wander in chaos. Lead it, speak to it, remind it what matters, speak slowly, speak clearly. Say, I am not my emotions. I am the observer of them. I am not my fear. I am the one who moves through it. These are not slogans. These are signals, instructions to your inner world. This is the quiet work. No spotlight, no applause, just steady input, steady growth, steady strength. The Stoics didn't reprogram themselves in one night. They trained every evening. They fell short, and they tried again. And through repetition, they built a mind that did not shake. That is the power of subconscious reprogramming, not to escape pain, but to carry peace, not to perform a persona, but to become a person, anchored, disciplined, awake. So as the world sleeps, you prepare, you rewire, you remember who you are by reminding yourself. And with each night, you grow not just wiser, but freer.
Number 5.
Contemplation of mortality, Memento Mori. There is a truth most people avoid, and yet it's the one truth that gives everything else its meaning. You will die. This is not a threat. It's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to live deliberately. The Stoics did not fear death. They faced it. They studied it. They used it. They called this practice Memento Mori. Remember that you must die. But it wasn't morbid. It was clarifying. It was liberating. It was a tool to cut through distraction and return to what matters most. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." When you remember the clock is always ticking, you stop wasting time on things that drain you. You stop holding grudges. You stop chasing validation. You stop postponing the inner work, because when you accept you don't get forever, you finally realize how sacred now is and how fleeting. Before sleep, this truth becomes even more powerful. The act of closing your eyes is a small rehearsal. You are letting go. You are surrendering control, and there's no guarantee you will open them again. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to focus you, because the person who sleeps as if it may be the last time doesn't carry resentment to bed. He doesn't leave apologies unsaid. He doesn't treat peace as optional. He lives cleaner, quieter, stronger. That's why the Stoics practiced death in their minds long before it came for their bodies. Not to die early, but to live fully. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That's not gloom. That's precision. That's presence. When you contemplate death with intention, you sharpen your perception. You stop fixating on the trivial and return to the timeless. And consider this. Everything you do in a day is something you're trading a piece of your life for. Every scroll, every complaint, every meaningless argument. That time is non-refundable. When you sleep without contemplating mortality, you risk waking up still thinking you have forever. Still procrastinating your growth? Still numbing the truth that's quietly waiting in the background? Until one day it isn't. Yet when you reflect on death before sleep, something subtle but profound begins to shift. You stop clinging, you stop obsessing, you start choosing. You remember that life is not about having more. It's about being more awake, more aligned. And sleep becomes not just rest, but a renewal of purpose. Steve Jobs once said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." That's Stoicism, distilled. When you accept the certainty of death, you stop living in fear, you stop living for approval, you stop living asleep. You begin to walk lighter, speak clearer, and live as if every word mattered, because it does. Memento Mori doesn't make life darker. It makes it clearer. It burns away ego's illusions and brings the soul into focus. It strips the lie that you can wait forever. It asks you, if this was your last day, would you be proud of how you lived it? Not in general, but today. So tonight ask yourself, did I speak truthfully? Did I love with presence? Did I invest time in what actually matters? Memento Mori doesn't want you to feel regret. It wants you to feel awake, because death is not the end. It's a reminder. And if you listen, it will change the way you live. This practice isn't about fear, it's about freedom. Because when you remember your time is limited, you stop giving your energy to things that don't matter. You forgive faster, you speak more gently, you move with urgency, but not with panic. You live slower, but with far more intensity. This is not a one-time insight. It's a daily return, a mental realignment, a sacred reminder. Before bed, breathe and say, if I don't wake tomorrow, let me sleep in peace tonight. Not fear, peace, because you lived on purpose. Because you refuse to die with your truth unspoken. That is the gift of Memento Mori, not despair, but clarity. It brings urgency without anxiety, depth without drama, and it reminds you, the greatest tragedy isn't dying, it's never fully living. So remember you are mortal, and that's what makes you powerful. Not because you control how long you live, but because you control how deeply. Number 6, waking up with intention. How you begin the day is how you train the mind to live. Most people don't actually wake up. They resume. They roll out of bed into noise, into screens, into other people's demands. They check their phones before they check their thoughts. They rush into tasks before they have centered themselves. But the Stoic does not stumble into the day. He enters it with awareness, with clarity, with purpose. Because the first moments of the morning are not throwaway, they're sacred. They are a window of quiet power. Marcus Aurelius began his days by writing, his meditations were not meant for anyone else. They were a dialogue with himself, a morning reset, a reminder of what truly mattered before the noise of the world tried to confuse him. He knew that if you don't set your intention, the world will set it for you. And the world rarely chooses peace. It prefers speed, reaction, comparison. The Stoic chooses presence. He prepares his mind before the world can infect it. Waking up with intention doesn't mean creating a perfect morning routine. It means creating a moment, just one, where you breathe, return to your values, and remember who you are. It means starting the day not with reaction, but with recollection. It means asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not tomorrow. Not next week.
Today?
Because the mind you bring into the morning is the seed of every decision, every response, every word. Epictetus said, the first step toward freedom is to choose your thoughts. And there is no better time to choose them than when they are still soft, before the world hardens them. Those first few moments of the day are a reset button. Before breakfast, before news, before emails. That's your moment. To choose clarity, to choose direction, not with lofty declarations, but with steady presence. With a grounded reminder, I am alive, I am here, I am responsible. And this matters more than you think. Because most people don't think, they repeat. They replay yesterday. They carry yesterday's anger, their unfinished business, their internal noise. If you don't pause, you drag that mess into today, and you let it dictate your mood, your words, your focus. But if you take that pause, if you claim just 2 minutes of silence, you reclaim your day from reflex. Seneca wrote that life is long if you know how to use it. But most don't use it. They waste the beginning of each day in a fog. The Stoic doesn't wake up late in spirit. He rises with a decision, not just to move, but to move rightly. Not just to speak, but to speak meaningfully. Not just to act, but to act from principle. And this is where discipline shows up. Not in how much you do, but in what you choose to do first. Before you scroll, before you speak, before you react, reclaim your mind. A minute of silence. A line of reflection. A single question. What will I not allow to control me today? That is the shield you carry into the noise. The modern world makes it easy to wake up distracted. But that's not how strong minds are built. Strong minds are built in the pause, in the decision to stay with your thoughts before you join the world. You are not obligated to begin your day in chaos just because others do. You are allowed to begin with peace, with presence, with power. So don't rush into your day. Return to it. Re-enter it with eyes open. This is not weakness. This is strategy. When you choose how you begin, you reclaim something most people never touch. Sovereignty. And when you own your beginning, you influence your ending. The Stoic doesn't wake up hoping for peace. He creates it. Through breath, through thought, through deliberate action. This is not magic. It's method. Simple. Consistent, relentless. So tomorrow, don't just wake up. Return to yourself and ask, what do I stand for? What will I let go of? What matters truly today? Because if you can answer that before the noise arrives, then no noise will shake you. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to change how you end your day and how you begin the next. Because the habits you carry into sleep shape the mind that wakes up. And when you use that window, those final minutes before rest, to reflect, to detach, to realign, and to reprogram, you don't just sleep deeper, you live deeper. This isn't a philosophy of escape. It's a discipline of clarity, a nightly practice that reshapes your nervous system, your values, and your emotional baseline. One breath at a time. The Stoics understood this, and now so do you. So tonight, sleep not to forget, but to become. And tomorrow, wake not just to react, but to lead. This is the way of the Stoic, quiet, consistent, unshakable. If this spoke to you, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe for more tools to build a stronger inner world day by day.